So here people are coming in, I see. We give it 30 seconds. 18, 20, yeah, the numbers go up. For those who are there, welcome. We will start in 30 seconds, 1 minute, the time everybody joins the room. See. Yes, I think the numbers stopped, and whoever joins later, we're just going to start. So welcome everyone to this webinar. If I could ask you to mute some noise. Okay, the background noise stopped. That's good. So welcome again to this webinar called Meeting the Bosses. My name is Jochen Schell. I'm the director of YEP Europe, and we are hosting this webinar today. Myself, Tanya, who you see, Tanya Katzbert, and Carla Morales. We are from YEP Europe, and I will give you a little bit of information about YEP Europe in a second, and about this webinar and the context of this webinar before I introduce you to our speakers, our guest speakers of the webinar. So here we go. So YEP Europe, some words on the organization. We are an NGO based in Berlin. And you see here some facts and figures. We are basically at the center of a network called the YEP Community Network, which is a network composed of marginalized communities and youth organizations across Europe. Our focus is youth and community empowerment. And you can see here some figures. We are celebrating 20 years in 2020. And we have in that network, the YEP Community Network, we have about 45 members, 110 communities in 18, I think now it's already 19 countries. And these 12,000 residents and 5,000 young people represent our outreach in terms of people directly involved in YEP activities in the network. As I said, also important to mention, we are part of the International Academy in Berlin, which is our legal representative. And in terms of our activities, as I mentioned, we are at the center of this network, and we coordinate the network. We are in charge of expansion, of promoting and mainstreaming the YEP approach and methodology, which is an approach of youth and community empowerment, but also an important aspect of our work and our mission is the development of capacity building programs. And they are needs-based programs, so we are in direct contact with our members, the young people in our network, and we check through this communication and surveys what their needs are in terms of capacity building. And here we develop programs in many fields, such as youth empowerment approaches, but also social inclusion, social entrepreneurship, media work, advocacy work, children's and human rights, and also topics like the climate emergency. So these are topics in which we develop capacity building programs. So this is very shortly summarized, but it gives you some idea of who we are. And you can, of course, check our website where you find out more about us. Some words on the general context of this webinar. It's part of a program, Erasmus Plus funded program. It's a Key Action 3 program, support for policy reforms, civil society cooperation in the field of youth. And we have partners from 12 countries in this consortium for this program. You can see the flags here at the bottom. And one of the missions of this program was to basically promote the EU youth strategy and the European youth goals. And within this context, we have promoted this through social media campaigns, through podcasts and videos from young people, and also through webinars. And this webinar today is the fourth of a series of four, so it's the last one. And here you can see the flyers of the previous ones as well. So the first one was focused on the EU youth strategy and its instruments. Then we focused in the second one on the European youth goals. There are 11 youth goals, you might know them, and we presented them and also how they were created. And then in the third one, which was months ago, I think, we looked at best practice examples of youth workers and young people who participated in EU programs such as Erasmus Plus or the Solidarity Corps. And today we take another angle, which is the local level, the level of municipalities. And we'll talk, I'll present you to the speakers right now. We'll talk today on how this youth, this general framework of youth, EU youth strategies and European youth goals gets basically to the local level, and how are youth policies developed, implemented, what challenges exist. And also we will talk about some tips for young people on how to get involved in the design of youth policies and how to approach policymakers and politicians. Just roughly, this will be the angle. And so here's some practical details on Zoom. Well, most of you might have used this before. This is a webinar, it's not a conference call, which means you cannot switch on your camera and microphone. We have we had more than 100 registrations for this webinar. So with the microphone, people switching on microphones, it's technically a bit challenging, but the participation and exchange is given through the chat. So you can ask questions and write comments into the chat. And you can also write questions into the Q&A section. All these functions are at the bottom of your screen, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. The last 15 minutes, more or less, are reserved for this. And there are polls. You see one right now. So there are little pop-up windows where we ask you some questions, and you can click the answers. And that's about it. And we are also live on Facebook. So this is about the technical things. Most of you might know them already. So let's now get to the real thing. The speakers. So we are very, very happy and grateful to have you with us today. Bruno Antonio and Camila Vieux. I'll introduce you to Bruno first. So he's graduated in social education at the, just clicked it away. So at the University of the Algarve in Faro in Portugal, and for the last 12 years, he's been actively engaged in international youth work as an expert and an external consultant for several institutions such as the European Commission and the North-South Center of the Council of Europe. He's also the Secretary General of an organization called Youth for Exchange and Understanding. He's the coordinator of the organization DIPOL, which is a network of 50 members in 29 countries in Europe, supporting youth policy development and youth participation at the municipality level. He is also engaged as a trainer at the European Youth Forum. He's part of a pool of trainers there, and and also collaborates with Salto, Euromed, and Salto Participation on the development of training programs. So as you can see, we have a heavyweight with us today when it comes to youth work and youth policies. We are, as I said, very grateful that you are with us today. And Camila, let me tell you something about Camila. She's works directly in a municipality in Albenga in Italy. And she was the youngest councillor ever elected in Italy in May 2014. She also runs a farm with her family and was reconfirmed as a city councillor in 2019. And she's a passionate supporter of YEP. She set up and launched the youth center in Albenga in 2015 and has been running it ever since with YEP Albenga. I hope I didn't forget anything, but we are very honored and grateful that you're with us today. And I would just give the floor now to Bruno first and then to Camila. So the floor is yours, Bruno.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and good morning to everyone. Still in my time zone is still quite morning, but I imagine from the poll results that we have a lot of different time zones here in the group. First of all, to thank YAP, to Tanya, Johan, and Carla, all the team of YAP for this invitation, for me to share a little bit my perspectives and also my personal opinion, and also a bit then the experience of the PAL network on this field of youth participation in a very specific angle, that is how young people are engaged in public policy development at local level. Just a clarification, some of the things that are connected to the short bio that Johan was presenting are on the past. So I already don't represent and I'm not already Secretary General of Youth for Exchange and Understanding. But when I was young, I was, and it was
sorry for that. Yes.
A very important experience. Just to know that maybe there is some member organization of Youth for Exchange and Understanding there, and see, no, this guy was 10 years ago. Or more already, more than 10 years ago. But it was an important experience in terms of also the issue that comes here for us to speak about, that is the involvement of young people in the decision making. So, and starting at that time, and maybe it's going to be a good connection, I was involved in many spaces of decision making at the European level, with the European Youth Forum and so on, so in many platforms. But at a certain stage, we started to realize, together with a couple of colleagues that were very involved in different European platforms at that time, that at local and regional level, there was not so much structured spaces for youth participation. And when I say structured spaces, it's spaces where young people at the local or regional level could really influence public policy. When I'm talking about public policy, I'm talking about influencing how a municipality is thinking about their economic development, or about their policy on employment, or housing, or transportation, or education, and so on and so on. So we realized that at European level, there was a couple of structured spaces and processes and instruments that will allow this, but at local and regional level, there was missing this kind of systematic approach. With this, I don't say that some localities, some municipalities, and some regional governments, they don't have spaces that young people can influence. And when I say young people can influence without being a member of the political party, because if you are a member of a youth of a political party, you have access to at least to your political party that many times is seated and has a representation. But our question was, what spaces young people that are not engaged on political parties can put their opinion, can put their thoughts, can put their visions to influence public policy. And then we realized that here it's an opportunity. Is an opportunity also for us to transfer a bit of our experience and try to adjust some of these models that were taking place at the European level, with the structured dialogue that now is called Youth Dialogue, or in the co-management of the Council of Europe, to our local and regional reality. Before I pass to why we focus on this work, and why for us it's so much relevant, this youth participation, just to explain you a little bit Currently, I'm working on DeepAL network that is a member and happily a member of also YAP network, because YAP brings a very important dimension into our work in terms of engaging directly with young people, because DeepAL network focuses more on reaching decision makers and reaching the people that are working in the municipality that can create these kind of spaces of youth participation in public policy development. We are a network of close to 60 members. But I usually say that DeepAL, we have a very target narrow focus. We talk about youth participation in a very specific angle. So youth participation in local governance, youth participation in public policy development. This is what brings our members together. And what brings our members together is the fact that this is very easy to speak, as you're going to see in the next, I think, and Johan, please control my time. Please control my time in the next 10 minutes that I'll be here presenting a little bit the angles, but it's very difficult to put in practice. It's really difficult to create really spaces where young people, especially if we're talking about non-organizing people, and this, when I say non-organized, are the ones that are not part of our representative civil society organizations, of youth organizations, can really assess and influence public policy development. And the fact that it's not easy brings these organizations together, that we share practices, that we learn with the existing models, that we go to the organized study visits, trainings on this particular level. But why we focus on youth participation, and why is youth participation in decision making such a big issue for us? We could state many different reasons of having young people engage at their local level being something really important. We not just believe that young people are the future, as we say many times, but we believe that young people are really the present. We believe that in the community, young people really represent 20, something 25, 18% of that population. But when we see how much they are represented in the People's Assembly at the municipality level, or even in members of the board, and Camila here, fortunately, is not even an example for Italy reality that I know also a bit. Usually we don't have such young councillors taking part on the decision-making process. So many times the issues, concerns, but also only the concerns and the challenge that young people face are not represented and not addressed, but also their creativity, their innovation, their thoughts, the possible solutions that they would have for their community are not brought in board into the public discussion and into the public policy making. And this is a big loss. This is a big loss. If we are going to see who is developing innovation nowadays, who is bringing in the big companies and so on, they are a lot led by young people. Unfortunately, I'm already 40 years old. I made this year, so even in Portugal, no, until the end of the year, I can still be considered a young farmer. So Camila, maybe I'll follow your example of the farm. But besides young farmer, I cannot be considered young anymore. Maybe if they develop the young fisherman in the future, maybe I can still. So, but nevertheless, not being young, I really recognize that we are missing here all this potential. And this potential is not just for young people. When I say that it's important for us to engage in people in this kind of process, it's not for the, and I'm talking from a selfish perspective. I'm talking because I really believe that their ideas can really bring and improve our community. They can bring and improve our community, my community. I'm not young anymore, but I really believe that their thoughts, their capacity to engage, to innovate, to bring new things into the table will help to bring my community where I want to live, where my kids and will grow up. So I really think that we are missing here an angle. But I think here we all agree, or most of us that are listening to this webinar would agree, that yes, it makes sense, okay, but why this is not happening? Why are we not able to have so much, or at least a certain percentage that would represent the percentage of young people on the table, helping and supporting decision-making and policy development? And here we can go for a couple of reasons. First of all, there is the cultural reason. I saw that there is some countries also from South Europe, but also outside of Europe. And here the cultural reasons on how the society perceives young people that are on the process of developing their thoughts, but many times don't see them as fully citizens and as fully responsible with enough experience to take decisions on their community. And this is a cultural dimension. This is a cultural dimension that we need to work. It takes time. It's not change from one day to the other, but it's also possible to break and to change. But there's also other reasons. I'll not go too extensively into one, but there is also from society in general. But when we see some of the studies, we see how it's how young people are reflecting more this state of a disbelief on politicians, and disbelief on politics, a disengagement from these kind of processes. And this is quite problematic and dangerous even for our models of democracy. And we don't need to go very much in history to learn when these kind of situations happen, what were the consequences, at least in the history of Europe, but we can see also in other countries as Latin America and so on, how it creates the space for inter-dictatorships. And we see also in the recent, we don't need to go even to the recent history, we can see what happens when this belief on the democratic system reaches a level that is able to elect people, as we fortunately the American citizens already kicked him out, but we can see with Trump, with Bolsonaro in Latin America, in Brazil, or even in European cases, as we have in Hungary and Poland, and so on. And this gives spaces for entering systems that are really dangerous. So this belief in politics and politician is also one of the reasons that tend to make young people away from the traditional systems of participating. But also this last word that I say, the traditional systems of participating, is one of the reasons. We need to innovate in how we can engage young people on influencing public policy, on discussing what is better for their community. Nowadays, and I hope that this pandemic would also have, and will have a couple of positive impacts. I imagine that the overall will be very much negative, but I prefer to focus on a couple of positive impacts and things that we can learn. And one of the things is that this giant leap, the giant development that we had on this digitalization or the access to digital tools as we are having now, before you have to organize such a kind of event, okay, but with a couple of more meetings around, but would spend a couple of thousands of euros to buy flight tickets and everything. And now in 1 hour we can meet, exchange, and hear and this needs to come also into what is how public authorities are engaging citizens to think about their decisions and to think about their policies. And this is something that for young people, it's very important. We many times we see and we follow at local level in different municipalities across Portugal, different what we call the local youth councils, and we are supporting how to restructure them. And it's a very formal space that is really not so many times engaging for young people. And this needs to think that the structures and instruments that are allowing young people to influence and to engage in public policy need to be retained, shaped, needs to bring innovation into it. And with this, I wanted to focus on two different angles that for me are fundamental when we want to change this reality. One of them is this that I thought now, the structures and instruments that allow youth participation in decision making, okay? We could talk, I'm talking about youth because it's what is closer to my work, what is closer to what I defend, but also because I believe that when you start to innovate with youth and bring these instruments, then other citizens of other age groups also start to use it. So here is a shape or rethinking or bringing innovation in how citizens are participating at the local, region, national, and so on in other levels. And the other dimension that is fundamental is the education. So I think we need to stop being afraid of talking that we need to start educating for the political participation of young people. And when I say young people, could even see the political participation of children. Because how we start to think on the kindergarten, how children think and suggest about their space and discuss with the colleagues what they want to do in their kindergarten playground, or how to arrange the space inside of the room, or decide what game they will play in that afternoon, how they start to be educated to participate and think their space and think their territory. This is political participation. It's just not knowing that what the political party A or B, or what is the ideology or what it defends. This is also important, definitely. But political participation goes a lot beyond what is the political parties. And this, I think, it's fundamental for us to even to try to combat or invert the trend that we're having of this belief on the politics and the politicians, and the danger for democracy that we are living nowadays. And unfortunately, many of our politicians are not realizing how this is dangerous. And unfortunately, I think if more people had this consciousness and had the urge, feeling the urge, we would be educating and making in people experience, and also thinking about this democracy and practicing democracy. And this is very important in the education level. But there was, and I want to finish because I think I still have, or almost closing my time, but just with some tips, because in the poster that you can see, there was tips on how to get a meeting with the decision maker. So I wanted to finish with something very practical that I could share. Then this always depends on what kind of politician, decision maker you are trying to reach. If it's a local, region, European, depend on the level. But I would say that first is to get as much information about this person as possible. Google it, check their bio, go to the website of the municipality, check with the people that maybe you know that are close to them, check about their interests, what they like to do, what is the projects that they were involved, even in the past, because sometimes it's a lot more. The main objective of getting to know more information is about this person is that when you have the opportunity to meet with him or create this moment, to create empathy. What I say that is the most important thing, that working with the and here I talk about the local, but could be other levels with politicians, is building trust relations. And trust relations you build when you create empathy, then you start to work, then you demonstrate the results, and then, okay, this guy will trust you as a reliable partner, as a person also. But first of all, without knowing him, it's difficult to get trust. So you need to start to get to know the people, and then when you have this meeting or this conversation, or when you ask an email, you can already connect with something that this person had a previous relation, as an interest. But also don't focus only on the person, focus on checking who can be your allies for this. Sometimes it's the youth worker working in the municipality, or the advisor. So it's a person inside of this public body. But sometimes no, sometimes it's an NGO that is already working, or another partner that that knows you, that can make this bridge to you, and can say these guys are a reliable partner, or can invite you to an event that they are there. Also, for example, from the PAL perspective, many times we invite them to our events. It's how we start for them to see what we do. Okay, this is the first step, and then we use the opportunity to set the meeting. Here, also don't focus only on the politician many times, or the decision maker. Check who is the advisors, who is around them. Sometimes they even like your project, but then the person that is going to push it on the table, no, don't forget this project, don't forget this idea, is their advisor, is their cabinet, or the person that are around them. So don't neglect them. Don't focus only on you, even if you're in the meeting, whatever. Look at both. Create this connection with both. And also sometimes, and again, we are not young people. Fortunately, we have a lot of young people that we hire here in the PAL network, also because we need their ideas, we need their innovation, we need their thoughts. It's something that we do it also strategically. But many times also through young people, sometimes you can get these bridges that the youth group wants to talk with young people. Sometimes they say, okay, if it's just this guy, Bruno, old guy and so on, but if it's 2 or 3 people, young people that help you to organize this meeting and to contact, sometimes is also an approach. And finalize to find just check the timings. If it's election periods, it's quite easy, or for elections. So check the timings also, that if you are proposing things that are involving budget, check if the budget for that year is closed or not, if it's being discussed there in that moment. So try to understand a little bit how the system of decision making also works within that body, to use the best. Okay, I hope that was useful. Some of the thoughts I shared with you, and then in the end, I think there will be a time for questions.
Thank you very much, Bruno. That was, I can only speak for myself, but that was very, very interesting, very useful. I think also the tips at the end, very hands-on advice. So that was really great. I'm sure we will also have questions at the end, but we leave them after Camila's presentation. So thank you very much for this input, Bruno. And we would now give Camila the floor. We already presented you, Camila. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Hello, everyone.
And Tanya, I think you are sharing the photos Camila is using for a presentation, right? Okay, perfect. So thank you, Camila.
Thank you, and I immediately apologize for my English, because it's not very good like Bruno. And thanks to Bruno Antonio, because I think that he explained very well tips and the more method and the real things in the instrument and the life between people, young people, and municipality. So thank you for your meeting. And today I want to explain what means for me politics, and what means for Yep Albenga politics in Albenga. When in the first in the period before I was elected, I meet with other people Yep Albenga. I think it was very important to meet these young people and understand what they do, and what they think, what are their ideas, and what do you want? What do you want to realize? Only with this explanation, it's possible for a leader or a municipality councillor to understand what means Yep methodology. Sorry, I read a little, because for me it's more easy to follow my discussion. The policy I decided to adopt when I meet Yep Albenga's guys was to fully embrace the Yep methodology. In a city like Albenga, I think that was the right path, the right way. I first wanted to know and understand Yep, and then I decided it become part of my policy, because in a local municipality like Albenga, that is not a lot biggest, but not little, it's important to have methodology to follow to realize a project and understand young needs. Young policy in Albenga are Yep Albenga. For me, this is a focus for my policy. And here, we needs and problems are studied with the young of Yep Albenga, and together, and this is important, together, projects are created from young people to young people. Always with the support of a municipality and the local association. And what's more beautiful? young people that understand other young people and create projects that they can realize. In the picture, you can see, for example, one of our projects, the football Yep Albenga. This is a very important demonstration of social inclusive, because these immigrant young people can follow their oh, sorry, one moment, sorry that I, yes, is the new, this is a new project of the football team that allow immigrant young to integrate into society, and this is very important for Italian people and the other people to understand what's important, the inclusive, the social inclusive. And Antonio Capezio, that is the young people that follow this project, I want to tell him thank you, because I think it's an amazing project for Albenga and for his young people. So the dialogue, the integration and the studying needs, and find projects to can realize. Other practical example of a project that embrace European policy, for example, we make in the last year another project that carry out a project that we want to carry out in this mandate as an administration is the cycle path to connect Albenga to the most peripheral areas. I believe this is a choice that embraces environmental policies. This year, with the Yep Football project, as a municipality, we donate bikes found abandoned in the city to give them to young people who had difficulty getting around. This is this I think is a very good choice and important for our city. And in the video, you can see that this year with Yep Albenga, with municipality and other association, we make a murales in a bad place of our city. We with color and our idea, we decided to drawings on the wall addressing environmental and social inclusive sector, in collaboration with voluntary of different associations and the municipality. These projects also, I think, is the demonstration that it's important to collaborate with all different local organizations, not only municipality, but also with other associations. This is the focus and the fundamental to make together some big action for our community. Okay, and sorry, I read a lot. You need to earn their trust to build a solid and yes. What I recommend to the young people. Don't worry about the municipality or the leader that you have in your organization, in the municipality or in the some place. If you truly believe in your idea, people will listen to you and help you realize them. I recommend that you find out who the political representatives are in your city and ask for a meeting. Like Bruno say before, it's important that you ask them a meeting. You must know them, present and give them your project, explain them your project, and after it's more easy to ask them what you need and why you need their support. Because I think for the municipality and the administration, it's important to have the new energy and the new young people that send us, municipality, new idea, new project. Because not always me, that I am in the municipality, I know what young people need. Only with methodology YEP, we can work together for this, work together to make important project in our city. If you for example, last year, other demonstration of our project with YEP Albenga, we built a gym of physical activity in an area, in a park in Albenga. And this is a place where you can practice sport for free together with other young people. Share a space in your city in order to share a space in order to enhance it and make it a point of reference for many people. Because I think that we must leave our city. We must participate with project, but also with aggregation with young people to make good things like sport, like activity, like we offer with YEP Albenga, video project, theater, and different activity important for the growing for ourselves. And for example, when after we built this gym in the park, YEP Albenga organized a sport festival where organized to learn about new activity. So it's very interesting because we put different sports, not only one, and all young people can try different sport with music and stay together. I think that is important because unfortunately, a lot of young in Albenga don't know what's the possibility in YEP Albenga in our young center. So my goals is for the next in the next year to coordinate with YEP Albenga to advertise more our activity and try to engage more young people. Because one of a problem of our society is that young people think that they hadn't choice. They think don't have choice, but they have choice. They can they have opportunity, but they will be open to take this opportunity, because with in our young center that manage YEP Albenga, we organize a lot of things, but maybe some young people don't want to embrace our philosophy and our methodology. So I think the focus for the next our politics is to engage these young people to understand that are a lot of good opportunity for them. Yes, one of things that I recommend at young people is to, if they believe in their idea, to ask a meeting with their councillor and mayor and create, like Bruno tell, empathy and explain what they need and what's the results that they expect. One of our in Albenga a very good activity is the sorry that I try because I think that before the young people must be active in their active in their local. They must interest and they must inform. Sorry, I forgot where is my okay, because another project is the participative the administration give an import, a budget that people can decide how to spend while project. So this is very important because people that want to be active in their local municipality, they can write a project and show at other people. After we have different projects that different people create and we vote. So is a very participation active for people, a very opportunity. And also for this, it's important to advertise, to make a good sensibilization in the people to participate in our life, political life, because only in this way we can make big project. To answer at the needs of the young people and the population. Okay, I think I lost a little in my different test and discussion, but if you have some question, I am here. Thank you and sorry.
Thank you very much, Camila. Please don't be sorry. It was a very good first-hand example of youth participation in Yep Albenga. This is also why we invited you, because we know that in Albenga the young people are very much involved in well, the shaping of youth policies, and in very close collaboration with the municipality there, with you and the mayor. The questions, I would like to invite the audience now to write some questions in the Q&A section, and here are the first questions getting in. Maybe I just read them out to you. Yeah. So let's start with the first one. What can the decision makers and politicians do to make it more attractive for youngsters to engage with them and feel heard and taken into account in the decision-making process? What kind of concrete initiatives are taken or put into place to create space for youngsters to engage and to include in your organization or in your cities, and to be active participant without being attached to some political parties of views? how can youngsters be more represented into local democracy institutions? Who wants to answer? Maybe Bruno or Camila. I think it's a little bit what you said, Bruno, when you were talking about new and innovative ways of engaging young people, which came to light also during the pandemic. Maybe you have some examples or something to say to this question. Yeah.
I can share some examples. I think there is different local authorities that are promoting different initiatives, and I'll share some examples. My only concern is when this is done as punctual, isolated projects and not part of the long-term process, or really to engage young people in the decision process, and it's more just a project. And that as also is important because it's educating, it's preparing, but then we need to work on the preparation of young people to participate, but then give them concrete spaces. Giving some examples, there's, for example, this project that is taking place in different places in Europe at local level, that is the Young Mayor. Basically, young people elect their representatives at local level, depending on the group, 10, 20 people, 30 people, and they copy a little bit the system of a municipality. Some of them, they have even a budget, and they have to design a project during that year. Some of them, there's also the local youth councils that they work very differently across Europe. Some are a space for young people to meet, organize activities. Others are really a consultative body of the municipality, that some of the decisions that are affecting youth, they need to pass through this body, and the body issues a recommendation. In some countries, this body even have a decision making. So in some of the points, he has a deliberative, cannot pass, and then they cannot go to the main municipality, the decision body, without being firstly approved there, or they can block it. That is, for example, the youth participatory budgets, where young people within schools or outside of the schools, they propose projects for their community, and they vote on these projects, and the projects that the youngsters vote are implemented. Then inside of schools, there are also a lot of projects that are supporting young people to the students' assemblies, the youth delegates, so class delegates. So there is different kinds of projects. But my impression is that when it comes really to the level of decision making, so really the instruments or the councils or the bodies that are really enabling people to influence the public policy development, this is missing to be mainstream and to be generalized at local level.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Bruno. This is here, there's another question which is maybe more about the formats or technicalities. Is a question from Germany. To all, he's asking Wolfgang, how do your local people come together during these Corona months? Here in Cologne, no pubs open, no sports rooms, no restaurants, no places to come together or sit together. We had a couple of demonstrations against violence and Nazis, but even museums are closed at least up to January. I meet people in the streets and parks, at home only 27 square meter, not possible to have guests. So obviously one possibility is Zoom meetings, as we are doing now, for example. But have you come across other innovative maybe ways of getting people together, or getting people involved in processes?
For example, here in Portugal, we had two municipalities, one of Cascais and one of Sintra, two of them, but probably there's more. I'm saying these ones because it was the ones we were working, that they tried for the first time to do their youth city council assembly online. One of them even make a mixture of the format. So they made with people there, very few people, spread with all this distance, safety distance, and also people that wanted to participate online, that were the delegates of this, could participate online. that's why I think that some things are going to be interesting, because, for example, here these assemblies, they take place sometimes at 6, sometimes at 8, sometimes at 9 p.m. So it's very late on time, where young people are tired of the school, are tired of their work, and still going for it. So if they are able to participate from their sofa, from their couch, maybe it will be more engaging.
Yes.
But then it's the other thing. Then the tools to engage young people, because if it's only me speaking, then again, it's not very good quality participation space.
Absolutely. And it is, of course, a challenge. Of course, Zoom meetings and online meetings are an alternative, which is quite a good one, but I also feel that people are getting tired of it in a way. It's something, it's a short-term fix, I feel personally, but long-term, it's something you have to combine the online and the face-to-face, I think, otherwise it's not a long-term solution, I believe. Here's a question to Camila. Camila, in Albenga, do the youth or a group of youth have the right to vote in municipal council, and or is it an indirect democracy, and Camila is the only one to have the right to vote? I think you have to unmute your microphone first, Camila.
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Yes. The question is if the young people have the right to vote in municipal council, or if you are the only young person who has the right to vote.
In the municipality, we are different councillor, and I represent the young people with my my work that the mayor give me. Okay, and but before I forgot to tell you that from the last year we start with the counselor of the young people. Like Bruno told before, for the participation, we must we must start when we are little, from the kindergarten, because it's very important. So we start from the last year with Vincenzo, my colleague, the counselor of the young people in the school. So we start with these different projects, and but me, I'm the counselor of the Albenga, and I represent the young people.
Right.
I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, I think you did. I think you did. Maybe another question to you here. This is the next one is to yes. Do you think your youth projects and ideas really influence local policy practice?
Yes, I think that what we do with YEP Albenga is what we need in policy of Albenga, because we before study with YEP Albenga what young people needs, and after with the council and the mayor we decide to follow these needs, to realize some project, to make some answer at this problem. So yes, I think it's very important to connect young people with the young center of YEP Albenga, or YEP in the world, and communicate, collaborate, and discuss to understand what is the best way to realize some goals.
Great. Thank you, Camila. Here's another question. There's two more. One is about if in the YEP, I guess you mean the network, if there is, just a second. If there is municipalities with a participative youth democracy which have decision power in municipality. Well, I guess one example comes to my mind, which is the Youth and Children's Parliament in Kristinestad in Finland is one YEP community, which is a body. And I think it's an interesting question also, maybe Bruno, you have other examples, but to what extent do they have real participation, decision-making power, and where is the line between real power and like sometimes tokenism, you know, of putting some young people or children into certain bodies and say we are participatory, but in reality, I think it's more challenging to put that in practice than sometimes, yeah, it seems.
Definitely, I think sometimes we have the body in place, but it's not really happening. There is an interesting project that is called Democracy Reloading. Maybe you can Google it and get to know some information. Next year, I believe around March, is going to be launched a toolkit on what are the competences of the workers within local authorities to really be able to engage young people in participation in decision making. So, because many times, again, these models, they fall into tokenism. So young people are there just for illustration. But we have, for example, the Belgian Flemish region, they have good models of local youth councils. In other places in Europe, for example, in Portugal, I cannot say that is a good example, but we were fighting a lot to have a law that established that all municipalities needed to have a youth council. We managed to have a law, but then the people managing the place were not trained and prepared even to understand that concept. So we have many of these structures that exist just because there is a law. They meet 3-4 times a year, they take a picture and it's done. So it's not really effective or meaningful participation, or sometimes it's even reinforcing this distance and this disbelief in democracy and politicians and so on. So we need to be careful when we try to build these instruments and structures that not just the good intentions, but also the capacity really to manage and to create meaningful participation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the key word, this meaningful participation, and yeah, in practice, this is sometimes more challenging than we think, but it's an important point to take this serious. We are overstretching, but maybe we can have this last question here from Spain, from Enrique, who asks Bruno here. He refers to the main problems you mentioned in youth participation, and he's saying that the first one is culture. We are seen as no full citizens, so we are given little opportunity and responsibility to participate. The second point, education and work hours are too long, so we don't have physical time to participate. And then he also mentions money. Young people in Southern Europe spend a lot of time doing unpaid jobs or internships that do not give them economic retribution, and therefore young people are not motivated to still give an amount of their time to political participation. So Bruno, he asks, how do you think that we can give young people in exchange of their time and participation so they are motivated? Maybe a challenging question, but it's a good point he's raising here.
Yeah. Knowing at the time, and I don't want to run from the question, but I think this is a very special question, especially for the countries in the south of Europe. And since I think also North Africa, I've been working a bit in North Africa, Is this, okay, I'm participating, giving my time, but what I gain back? What do I gain back with this time that I give? And here I think it's a very important point that, first of all, I think when the space for participation is really meaningful, immediately the person receives a return of satisfaction, and he already finds that, okay, my time is being useful, my time is being dedicated to something that have an impact, but I have to see this impact. So we cannot be playing, asking people to think about their municipality, their territory, and after that there is no impact on their proposal. So there has to be an impact. If this is ensured, I think people start to see that their time is being useful. But then we have an example being very practical, and this I agree with the colleague that was proposing, how can we recognize this time? And this should be recognized. For example, municipalities could provide, and I see some examples of, for example, free entrance on museums, theaters, cinemas that are, or events that are managed by the municipality or spaces. For example, I think it's more ambitious, and this would open a different discussion, but even in terms of school recognition, in Europe, we have a system that is called the ETCS, European Accreditation System, or whatever. And for example, if I was participating, volunteering, or some spaces that are recognized as quality spaces, I could gain some credits that help me to not have so much classes in university. So it could be different mechanisms of recognition should be put in place for different age groups.
Great. Very, very great advice, great information from both of you, Bruno and Camila. Thank you so much. We overstretched it a little bit, but I think it was worth it. As I said, I thank you very much for your time, and I also thank the audience to be with us today. This was the 4th webinar out of 4, so it's the last one in this series. But if you are interested in our work, in our webinars, we will continue offering capacity building programs, online webinars, and things which are close to young people's lives. And so you can also sign up for our newsletter, and you will find out about these offers. And it's a bit early maybe to say Merry Christmas, but we still wish you Merry Christmas, and thank you very much for your presence today, and keep in touch. So thank you, and bye-bye. Take care. Thank you, Bruno, Camila.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for this possibility. Thank you
for the invitation, and we see each other.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.